everyone, and welcome to 7th Floral Canada TV. My name is Deborah, and I'm going to be walking you through Come, See, and Achieve. Yes, this is our immigrant education series, and we're going to be focusing this part 3 on a Burundian Canadian family. This is a case study. They are not real people, but we draw these lessons from immigration research across Canada, and we have learned a lot that we would like to share to prepare your family for successful living in Canada. So the Burundian Canadian family that we're focusing on today is the Bucumi family. The father, Mugisha, is 45 years old and he works as a senior chef at Days Inn Hotel. The mother, Mutoni, is 42 years old, and she works as the Canada Operations Officer at Cafe Company. This is an importing company that was established here. So she came in through the startup visa program, and her husband was her dependent. They have 2 children. One is 19 years old, a second-year sophomore student at the University of Niagara Falls, and he is Pierre, that's his name. And we also have Marie, or you could say Marie, who is in grade 10 in a high school, a French-speaking high school. This family lives in Moncton, New Brunswick, and they both speak French and English. We're going to be focusing on their family life today, and we're going to be drawing on lessons about what it takes to succeed as a family unit as immigrants in Canada. Yes, you can tell this family is African immigrant, as they are from Burundi, and so we're drawing on African immigrant research. So the 2 challenges in their very first year in 2020, the 2 challenges that they face were that they had difficulties balancing the role of the mother and the father, or you could say the husband and the wife in the family. Because here in Canada, the cultural expectation is for both mother and father to share the household responsibilities in terms of finances and work, as well as house chores, cleaning, cooking, and care for the children. Whereas in Burundi, where they were coming from, the father did more of the outdoors work, going to earn income for the family. And mind you, Mutoni worked, right? For her to have attained such a high position here in Canada. She worked in Burundi. However, she got a lot of support, cleaning and cooking and watching over her young children at that time. They paid someone to live in the home and to collaborate with her to keep the home clean and the mouths fed and all such. However, here in Canada, there is barely any support for home life in terms of employing people. You will have to pay them the minimum wage, and that could be a very high cost for an immigrant family. So they faced a different social situation, and they were wondering, how do we handle this? So I'll come back to that. That's the first situation. The very second is parenting styles. You know, in Burundi, where they came from, as is in several sub-Saharan countries in Africa, the culture around parenting is very direct. Children are given a structure for how to lead their lives, and they're expected to obey their parents as well as listen to the elders in the community. So parenting is more community focused, where it takes a village to raise the child, and the village actually does raise the child. However, here in Canada, parenting is a responsibility of the mother and father and key members of that family's network. And in Canada, the government is involved in the care of children. There are professionals, for example, social workers, among a few, who look to see how well children are raised and cared for, and if there is any concern that there is an abuse of a child or neglect, the child could be removed from the family. So these are the two things: balancing gender roles in a marriage relationship and parenting. That these are the two challenges that this family faced when they moved to Canada in their first year. How did they deal with it? What were their challenges? What situations cropped up? Well, stay tuned and we'll continue. So, the Bucumi family in their first year, this is 2020, in the heat of COVID-19, right before the lockdown, they arrived in January. And they started work, as everyone else did, in their various professions. And they quickly found that at the end of the day, both were exhausted, but Mutoni had to go to the kitchen and cook, clean, take care of the children, follow them up, and ask about their assignments, help them with the assignments. So in Canadian parlance, we would call that a double shift. It is seen as a double shift because women go out into the society and they work and they come back again and they do another shift, whereas the husband is relaxing or doing other things that are not focused on home life. So they found a challenge with this because Mutoni was often tired and sleepy and had to stay up late up till 11 p.m. and go out again around 6 a.m. in the morning here in Moncton. So they came together as a family and they addressed this through 4 principles that I will be talking about today. You will hear these 4 principles throughout our series, and I will continue to explain why they're so important according to research. It is TGIF. Well, it's not Friday. TGIF. The very first T is about transnationalism, and I'll come back to that. And then the G is about grit. I is for identity, and F is all about family. So what is T? T stands for transnationalism, and this is a theory that has been developed widely across African immigrant experiences around the world, especially in Canada as well. Transnationalism is the practice of sending information and goods and support and all kinds of interactions and supports across a transnational field. For example, people could be living in Canada and receiving advice from their parents and from their elders in Burundi, and this is the advantage that this family took. They used technology to be able to share the challenge and the friction that they were going through with their social support network across the globe. And of course, advice came in to be able to share these tasks and to be able to understand one another. And as they adopted such valuable advice, their family started to see an increase in relationality. They started to see a closer bond because Mugisha was closer to home and he contributed more to the family in all the activities, and their marriage continued to blossom. As you can see, they've been married for 20 years. So he was able to support his wife in leadership both at home and in the community, in the society, to be able to work full-time and come home and have some responsibilities shared in order to prevent her being exhausted with all those responsibilities. And yes, that's different from how things run in Burundi or in several other sub-Saharan African countries. However, because as immigrants, they were looking to succeed here in Canada, they had to negotiate those roles and be able to balance it. Okay, TGIF. What is G? Well, in this situation, I talk about grit G, meaning having the persistence to be able to push through challenges. In this situation, they had to go seek counseling. And I know that's not so popular in several immigration circles or in several countries, but here in Canada, being able to seek counseling is a sign of strength. Both father and mother sought couples counseling, and they were able to understand each other's perspective and move forward and implement what they learned in counseling. A similar advice about being able to share roles and responsibilities. Awesome. And now for identity. They were grounded in their Burundian Canadian identity. They spoke their languages at home. They also spoke English and French. They drew from all of these perspectives. This family adheres to the Christian faith, so they dug into the Bible, which is the scripture for Christianity, and they were able to read about love for the husband from Mutoni loving her husband Mugisha, and respect. So they were able to read about love and respect, and they both were able to mutually love and to respect one another. So Mugisha loved his wife, and Mutoni respected her husband according to the instructions about husband and wives in the Bible. And then they used prayer. So they identified with their religious background, they identified with their culture and their language, and they were able to apply all of these in the challenges that they were having at home. And so I've gone through T, G, I. How about F? F is for family. And family at first glance could appear as just a nuclear family, but no. Here we're talking about both the nuclear family, the extended family, and a new concept that has been reflected in research, the chosen family. You know, as immigrants move to a different country, they adopt people that are outside of their blood relations as their family members. And so this family was able to leverage support from chosen family, people in the community, from Burundian heritage, from various African cultures, and from even various cultures that are not African as well. They were able to seek support, maybe someone coming in to help them clean or watch over the children, help with the assignments, and that way they extended their network and were able to make good use of their stay in their very first year. Yes, there was lockdown, but they got some support online as well. And when there was an opening for people to see each other, they chose someone close by to be able to come visit, to be a mutual connection for them. So this is how they were able to overcome using TGIF in their lives. Now, for the second challenge that they were going through in their very first year, parenting, how did they confront this challenge and push through? Well, let's start with what research says about parenting. Here in Canada, research shows that parents usually approach parenting through three parenting styles. It is the authoritative parenting style, the authoritarian parenting style, and the permissive parenting style. So authoritative parenting style means that parents balance their instruction to children also with warmth for their children. So they show care and warmth and give them firm instructions. They also listen to them and they engage with them in order to guide them through life. Now, the second is authoritarian, where parents enforce their instructions to their children and they don't show as much warmth. And then the final one is permissive parenting, where parents give the children more leeway and liberty to make their own decisions without as much guidance. And they also they don't really give them enough guidance and support. They could lavish them with a lot of emotional support, but that guidance tends to be missing in the permissive parenting style. Now, research has shown that these parenting styles are not sufficient to guide a lot of African immigrant families in Canada. Although the environment is very lenient on children and allows children to be able to report their parents to the police for any acts of physical violence taken towards them, or any situation that they as children might interpret as abuse. So because the different approaches to parenting tends to be different in sub-Saharan African countries, for example Burundi, where corporal punishment is permitted, like spanking or any other physical impact on children to redirect their behavior. That's different from here in Canada, where it is not permissive for parents to use physical punishment on their children, because the environment tends to be different. Parents tend to be on edge when they parent their children here in Canada. And imagine the Bucumi family arrive in Canada at the heat of COVID-19, where a lot of the instruction for their children was going on at home. They still had to carry on their full-time jobs, the father in person and the mother at home. There was a lot of tension. And so to be able to redirect their children's behavior and to offer them the right emotional support, they came up with a different parenting style. It's called communicative parenting. Yes, the demand on their time was a lot, but they still took that time, a coffee shop outing here, a book club outing there, being able to support their children by playing games, going out to activities, having personal dates with the son, Pierre, and the daughter, Marie. This really helped to bring the family together, to give them a moment of mentorship, even when several hours of the time of the day was spent alone, either at school or at work with the separate families. So the communicative parenting style was found to be more effective with African immigrant families in Canada compared to the other ones I've mentioned: authoritative, authoritarian, and permissive parenting. And this kind of communicative parenting style kept the children out of trouble, helped them to focus on their education and to excel. And guess what? Pierre is now in his second year of computer science at University of Niagara Falls. So I want to encourage everyone watching this that you also can use the TGIF principle. Focus on transnationalism. Being in Canada doesn't mean letting go of all the resources available to you everywhere else in the world. And G, have grit. Purpose in your heart that you're going to trailblaze through all the challenges that you're going through, and in the end, you will succeed and celebrate with everyone. And for I, keep your identity central. Wherever you're from, do not forget where you're from. Continue to learn and practice your language, your heritage culture, your religious background, and also take part of the cultural identities that you admire here in Canada. Integrate them in the best ways that you feel would be helpful for you, and you'll do great. And finally, family. Family is so important, and you can choose who is your next of kin in our world today. They don't always have to be related by blood. Choose those in your blood relations that you want to continue to be part of your immigrant journey. And for those who you identify as best friends or longtime supporters, identify them as your family and draw on those resources. You will continue to succeed, and I believe it. And thank you for watching part 3 of Come, See, and Achieve. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below about what you learned or what you think immigrant families go through in their journeys in Canada. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.